Have you ever lost $1,000 trying to chase $50? I know I have probably hundreds of times. If you have, you're not going to want to skip this video. Let's talk about this idea of how gamblers love ending on round numbers or even numbers. And by the way, my name's Joe. My last bet was April 16th, 2024, and I make videos about gambling addiction and people dealing with the same insanity that I dealt with and how I got out of it. So make sure you subscribe. I don't even know what my numbers were like on those types of days, but if you gamble, whether it's casinos or sports books or whatever, you're never really happy with your win. You always want more. And also, gamblers are weird. We're quirky, superstitious, like got to wear the same shirt or turn your hat the same way or whatever. Like you'll figure out a reason to justify whatever bet you want to take. But ultimately, we want things to feel, just right. And so for me, one of those things was I always liked ending on round numbers. So if I was gambling all day or watching college football, let's say, and I had my account up to $973 and I was up on the day, you'd think I would just stop, right? But no, in my head, I wanted it to be an even $1,000 for no other reason than when I woke up the next morning, I'd be starting with an even 1,000 instead of 973. It makes no sense whatsoever. And so what happens is I'm trying to win $23 and you already probably know the story, but the bet loses. And then you try and fix that. And then another bet loses. And now you find yourself betting on these random ass sports to try and win back the money that you just lost trying to chase $23. It makes zero sense. And then something flips in your brain. You're not chasing that $23 anymore. You're actually just chasing control and you're trying to, again, fix something that didn't need fixing. And that's the crazy part. You actually feel like you're in control while you're doing it. And the more you lose, the more convinced you are that you're managing it. So you start telling yourself things like, I'm done after this one, or I know what I'm doing, but you're not managing anything. You're just really trying to manage your panic because you know what's about to happen and you made this mistake millions of times before trying to win a few extra dollars. That's what most people don't understand about gambling addiction. You don't lose that control all at once. You lose it slowly while telling yourself you've never been in more control of anything. And you already, again, know where the story is going. You redeposit, you double down, and 30 minutes later, that even $1,000 that you wanted so badly has turned into another day of you chasing your tail. Again, I can't even count how many times I've done that, whether it's $23 or $70 or whatever the number is. I just wanted that round number so badly. But it's insane because it doesn't make sense whatsoever. However, in that moment, to you, the person placing the bets, it makes perfect sense. And another crazy part about all of that, it went both ways. Like if I was sitting on whatever, $247, I'd use that as an excuse because if I won, then I could get to 275 or 300 or whatever the case was. But if I was down, then okay, I'm at 200. Fine by me. Again, there's no logic involved in that. Ultimately, that's just justification that I'd use to place another bet instead of just calling it a day. Here's another thing that people don't really get about gambling addiction. It's not really about greed at the core of it. It's about that sick part of your brain that can't stand to leave something unfinished. So I used to think about how I was just unlucky, but again, it's not about luck. It was about obsession. I didn't even want that $23. That's how dumb your brain is when you're gambling all that time. That $23 would have changed absolutely nothing in my life. Absolutely nothing. It wasn't going to lead me to the biggest win ever. It wasn't going to pay off any debts. Okay, great. I could buy some lunch with it. Awesome. But when you're already down so much, buying lunch, like who cares? I didn't want the $23. Well, yeah, I did, right? I did want the $23, but ultimately I wanted the round number. And that's the whole issue with chasing losses. Like I used to think if I could get back to even, it'd be like hitting the reset button. I'd have a clean slate. I could start fresh, but that was a lie because it never really got there. I might dig myself out of a hole for a week, But then again, I'm down overall, so I have to keep going. And that's just a lie that I told myself. All I ever did was dig the hole deeper. There's no clean slate in gambling. It's just the next deposit. And here's where gambling psychology comes into play in all of this. And I've talked about this in other videos, but you're truly never really happy. And this is how it tricks your brain. So let's say that I start with $1,000 on a blackjack table, and within 30 minutes, I'm sitting at 1950. I've almost doubled my money, but I want to get to that 2000. And instead of walking away and being happy being up $950, I keep playing and I get down to $1,200. And that's when I decide to walk away. Again, I should be pretty happy about that because I'm up $200 still, but in reality, I'm pissed off because I was up 950. And in gambling, your brain doesn't know the difference. It sets the new bar at 950, so it almost feels like you lost money. And conversely, let's say you have the same $1,000, but instead you start losing money right away. So you get down to your last $100. Again, you should probably walk away and take a break, come back later, whatever the case may be, but you decide to stick around and you turn that $100 into 800. And you feel like you've completely beat the system when in reality, you're still down $200. So you're really pissed off when you're up 200 and you're really, really happy when you're still down 200 because you climbed out of a little hole. And that's where things start to get a little scary for a gambler. You always need that extra hand, that extra spin, that extra parlay, that extra bet on the Hawaii bailout game at 12:30 at night because you've tricked yourself and lied to yourself into thinking one more bet is harmless. And it's weird too, because I knew the outcome. I knew what would happen, yet I still looked at my screen. I still, put the parlay together or put the bet in, and I knew that clarity would come and I'd have this, what the hell am I doing? But it always came after I placed the bet. I've lost thousands of dollars trying to chase $50. And every time I told myself I was almost done, I was really just getting started. And that's the trap. It's not one big bad decision that leads you down that road. It's 1,000 tiny little moments of just one more bet that add up until you're staring at not only a zero betting account balance, but probably a zero or a negative bank balance. So if you've ever done that where you're chasing a small win just because it didn't feel right to stop, drop a comment. I guarantee you're not the only one who's been there.